Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, wherever you are in our wide world. Welcome to another NetHope Webinar. My name is Seth Otto, and I'm the Digital Communications Manager here at NetHope and producer of the NetHope Webinar series. We're delighted to be joined today by representatives from the Center for Humanitarian Technology and our valued NetHope partner, Automation Anywhere. Together, they will be sharing the story of how the Center for Humanitarian Technology was founded in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and their successful deployment of automated bot technology to provide aid to the internally displaced in Ukraine in partnership with Automation Anywhere. Let's go over a bit of housekeeping before we get started. First off, let's make this webinar interactive. Let us know what comes up for you. Please post your comments and questions in the chat window. The presenters will address them during the question and answer period toward the end of the presentation. In the hours following the webinar, we will send a follow-up email your way that includes links to the webinar recording, the slides, and any other resources shared during today's presentation and discussion. So please pay attention to your inboxes. And we value your feedback. Your opinion matters to us, and we use your responses to our survey to improve this webinar series for you and our broader NetHope community. It also provides our presenters with an opportunity to connect with you if you want them to. And with all that out of our way, I would like to welcome today's speakers. Dean Hamilton is the founder of Center for Humanitarian Technology, and Neeti Mehta Shukla is the co-founder and social impact officer at Automation Anywhere. Dean, I will now hand things over to you to get us started.
Thanks, Seth, and thanks to everyone for joining. So yeah, I'm Dean Hamilton. I am the founder of Center for Humanitarian Technology. I'll abbreviate it probably throughout this and call it CFHT. Center for Humanitarian, well, just a little bit on my background. I'm a longtime Silicon Valley technologist, and started as a software engineer, came up through the ranks, have been involved with some pioneering startups along the way, and also am a partner and CTO at a global management and strategy consulting firm. So CFHT started out of a conversation I had with a good friend of mine who, just after the Ukraine war started, he was at the Romanian border trying to get his family out of eastern Ukraine. And we were just talking about the chaotic situation there. And, you know, and I was wondering how I could help. And he was sort of telling me that he thought a lot of the NGOs he was seeing working there could use more technology assistance, you know, more of a lift to help them, you know, with the volume of the need that they were serving. And so that got me thinking, and I called a bunch of friends of mine, and about a month after the war started, we started to look for a on-the-ground NGO partner working in Ukraine that we could partner with, and that was the genesis for then what became the 501c3 nonprofit that I and a number of other colleagues of mine now run, and it's evolved into something where the goal is to be able to take volunteer engineers, technology experts, operations experts, combine them with industry-leading technology from companies like Automation Anywhere, and integrate, you know, rapidly sort of, you know, parachute in and integrate technology solutions that can provide lift for NGO partners. So CFHT builds and integrates technology and then delivers it as a SaaS solutions that our partners can use. Now, we were lucky enough, next slide, please. We were lucky enough to find a great partner doing just amazing work in Eastern Ukraine, an organization called Step with Hope. And Step with Hope was founded, you know, back before the hot war. You know, it's always been a hot war, but the kind of version of the war that we're in right now, they were started back in 2014. and to deal with the war in the Donbass region. And they run a number of aid centers that provide support for elderly people, disabled people, families with children. They're based in the Dnipro region, so just right there, just across the the border from the front lines, so to speak. And they've been operating somewhere around 25 of these aid centers across the region, and they were basically functioning with traditional call center technology. So people would sort of call them up, and usually IDPs who had left with nothing, and they would have needs, clothing, grocery kits, perhaps healthcare needs, and so on. And then Step with Hope would had a team of volunteers and distribution centers that were trying to meet those needs. So and by the way, just to give you some context for just how close to the war zone Step with Hope operates. The facility just across the street from Step with Hope was bombed. So these folks are literally just doing amazing work right in the heart of the conflict zone. So I'm going to turn it over to Neeti and let her tell you a little bit about Automation Anywhere, and then I'll start to tell you a little bit about how we kind of work together and the solution we offer. Neeti?
Thanks, Dean, for providing that overview. It was just such a pleasure to work with CFHT and Step with Hope. Before we jump into the case study, I'd love to share a little bit about Automation Anywhere and how we fit into this mix. We're a company that was founded about 20 years ago, and we bring cloud-based intelligent automation to business processes. So we work across all verticals, all industries, and basically we help automate anything that can be automated, really. About a year and a half ago, we launched our social impact office because we really saw the need in the nonprofit sector to utilize technologies like ours to better productivity and efficiency. And that's our aim here, is to really utilize this technology to help these organizations do more with their volunteers, with their grant money, and so forth. So our mission is to fuel the future of work by empowering nonprofits and uplifting human lives through technology access, human economic uplift, and community investment. So after the launch of our team, CFHT had reached out to us with an opportunity to support Step with Hope in the Ukraine. For us, the project was a no-brainer. If our technology could be used to support this organization on the ground so that they could distribute aid quicker, they could help their volunteers, especially take care of some of the error reduction, some of the administrative tasks that were there, then it was obviously something we wanted to do together, and it was something that would help all of us do better. All a lot of our employees actually got really into this project as well, and were signing up to volunteer and be part of this project. So it was internally as well very, very nice for us. Next slide.
Well, thanks, Neeti, and let me take you through a little case study of what we've done together. But first, before that, let me just tell you a little bit about the model that CFHT works in, and this model kind of developed over time as we came together as a group of technologists and operations experts and volunteers and started working with Step with Hope. But what we've really kind of evolved into is an organization that is has at the center what we call a mission, which is a solutions offering that we build. In the case of the work in Ukraine, we call our first mission the Ukraine Evacuation Support Center, or Ukraine ESC, and what we do is we bring together great technology companies like Automation Anywhere, Zendesk, Telegram, Amazon Web Services. You know, one of the things that struck me was that so many of the problems I was sort of hearing about from my friend, I thought had technology solutions, but yet I realized that, you know, even commercial enterprises very often struggle to take, you know, all of these best of class technologies in, and then really integrate them into impactful solutions. And we've all seen times where, you know, an organization has brought in some piece of technology, started to implement, and then it's kind of just fallen by the wayside or not delivered its promise, and so on. And so if that happens in the commercial world, I can only imagine how much more it happens in the NGO world, where you're all struggling just to meet these high intensity demands from the people you're serving. And so, you know, one of my observations is that, you know, technology alone is not going to be a sufficient solution. You really need a combination of process and operations expertise and technology together, and a methodology for sort of working and collaborating very closely to kind of evolve to the right solution, right? Nobody probably in these environments where there are challenges, nobody knows what the perfect solution is to a problem just on day one. So you need to be able to do a sort of an iterative set of experiments quickly to find the solutions that are going to be most effective. And so what we decided to do was to form a model where we could bring operations experts from leading consulting firms, like the firm that I'm at, that I've been just grateful for the amount of resources that they've contributed, but we've had other firms also. Bring technology, best of breed technology partners like Automation Anywhere to the table through their social good programs to offer their technology. And then we work together in partnership with the NGO to kind of, you know, prototype and trial solutions, and eventually find, you know, compelling solutions that are really making a high impact. And then we get to a place where we can turn those solutions over to our partners and move on and do the next thing. So let me tell you a little bit about, next slide. When we met Step with Hope, they had been using a, you know, kind of a telephone call center that was overwhelmed. Basically, you could never reach them. You know, you called them, their numbers, they had the numbers advertised everywhere on social media and so on, but the numbers were always busy. They had, you know, a lot of bodies on the ground trying to service this telephone call center, and so immediately we kind of wondered whether shifting away from the telephone call center to a messaging based intake would make a big difference, right? At least you could get those needs in, but you needed to be able to put them somewhere, and then you needed to be able to process them and then have people respond. And we thought a technology like Zendesk's customer service center platform would work very well for this. And so we reached out to them, and they became a partner with us, and we integrated their technology. Zendesk had a very sort of simple Telegram integration. And one of the nice things about Ukraine is everybody there is pretty technology savvy, and Telegram was the messaging platform that most Ukrainians use. So we decided we start out by building an operations center function based on Zendesk. We staffed it with volunteers, CFHT volunteers who were Ukrainian speakers who themselves were refugees from the war, many of them based in Poland. And just as we were, even before we were ready to sort of turn that solution on, I think the link to the Telegram bot got leaked, and we immediately started getting overwhelmed. Just like one day, suddenly we had like 1,200 requests come in, and it became immediately obvious to us that we had a problem, because these requests were coming in with a lot, it was just, the Telegram interface was just basically a free form. You could type anything you wanted in. So people were just typing in all kinds of things and trying to tell them where people, tell Step with Hope where they were and what they needed and who they were. And, we realized very, very quickly that that was a very chaotic way of getting the data. And we needed a way to kind of be able to have a more structured conversation with the IDP, be able to really ask specifically for the critical things that Step with Hope was going to need to be able to make decisions, be able to decide how to direct them to service centers and so on. And so we needed a far more intelligent interface than what we started out with. And that's when I gave Neeti a call over at Automation Anywhere, and she graciously and was just excited to bring her team to bear on this problem. And so that's where we started to kind of look at building a smart chatbot that could serve these needs. And once we did this, we were able to process something like over 10,000 requests in our first month. Next slide. So the way the front end solution of our platform works is Zendesk is the back end, and our operations center experts process the requests that are in Zendesk and then help direct those requests to the right aid center. But the front end is Telegram, and the Automation Anywhere technology was able to allow us to go from this very generic Telegram interface to this really highly structured kind of conversational chatbot that will ask the IDPs for, their name, their phone number, their IDP number, how many people are in their party, all of these things. The bot is capable of doing some cool validation checks to make sure that, IDP numbers and passport numbers and so on are in the right format. And then that data is actually stored in custom fields within the Zendesk platform, and then those fields are actually used to assess the need. Sometimes what we find is, there are many people kind of contacting Step with Hope for services that Step with Hope doesn't offer. So we want to kind of get those out of the pipeline quickly so we can service the needs that Step with Hope does offer. And sometimes, even though Step with Hope doesn't offer that service, we know some other aid organization that does, right? So we can act, CFHT can act as an intermediary and actually get those people across to where they really are able to get help. But it took some iteration, it took some trial and error, some learning, some collaboration. But we ended up in a fantastic place where over 200 hours of labor a week are saved just processing the requests that come in. And we're able to get reach. Step with Hope is able to reach and serve a very, very large, much larger, order of magnitudes larger community than it was able to serve before we start. Let me stop there and ask Neeti what she wants to add to that.
This is at least from a process perspective, was one of the typical problems we see, right? We have a process that needs to work in a particular fashion, and we have many different technologies being used for that process. And bringing them all together, both from a technical perspective, but also a people's perspective, was one of the challenges that I saw early in this when we were trying to get this organized. So we literally had a meeting that we set up, inviting everybody and all the technologies that we were using and all the folks that were working on these technologies to work together. That collaboration, I think, changed it. significantly. I think we were able to streamline the process. We were able to take care of some of the challenges between platforms. We were able to apply a lot of intelligence into that process automation. And literally, it was all hands on deck to get that process done and automated and deliver the results that we saw. So that was also great learning on our side. I think as a team, we had to come together and look at the entire process, look at it in spite of the technologies and with the strengths that the different technologies brought to the table.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Neeti. And I think as I think about that, I also think about just what an amazing job the Step with Hope guys did collaborating with us, because just imagine they're in the war zone, right? The bombs are dropping around them. The people are coming to them for aid. And then we're here going, hey, we want to help you, but we need to understand your process. Yeah, we need to get on Zoom calls with you. And
Yes.
but they were able to see the potential leverage that they could get and the way they could make their donor dollars go much further. And so they've just been absolutely amazing to work with. Let's go to the next slide. So we went from the intake side, and then that worked so well that we decided to see, well, what other problems could we solve? And one of the things we kind of realized after we started, serving a lot of people through the Ukraine ESC platform is that we needed a better way of, Step with Hope kind of operates in silos, and every aid center, local aid center, is kind of a silo. It's got its own people. It's got a little bit of its own processes. And then we have our operations center experts in Poland working with on the digital side. And so as we were sort of directing IDPs to locations where they needed aid, we needed a better way for the local aid centers to be able to plan and know what to expect was going to be walking through the door every day. And, instead of just kind of random people, and they're not sure if this was the person that was assigned to their center and so on. And so what we realized is we needed to create a more sort of structured intake on the delivery side of the process, where the IDP actually gets the services on the day that they are supposed to get the services. And so we again went back to Automation Anywhere and worked with them to now before this, what we would do is Step with Hope would take the data from, they would do an export from Zendesk, and then they would, it would be a CSV file, and they would convert it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then they would try to process that Excel spreadsheet to figure out who was going to each center. And it was this very, very convoluted process. And we realized very, very quickly that, well, that's an ideal RPA kind of intelligent automation use case. And we could very, very quickly come in, look at that end-to-end flow, and just fully automate it so that the system just spits out the daily need and services and sign-in sheet for the managers of each local aid center. And so we put our team to the task of doing that. The old process was just very, very error-prone. But we were able to listen to the end users and what they needed. And within a few weeks, we had dispatched the old process completely, now have a kind of a very highly automated solution running there to actually help with sort of the kind of the last mile of the problem. Neeti, any comments on that?
Yeah, if we go to the next slide, I will add a little bit, this is the detail of the process, and I won't go into every step. But we see this, in the commercial world, in customer service triaging, right? There's just so much of similarities in what we see the corporate world do as to what the nonprofit world requires. And in all these cases, I like to put a human lens on it. So in the corporate world, if I try something wrong or I get the ID wrong, maybe there's a delay, maybe there's a cost, maybe the customer is dissatisfied and I've got to fix it. But when you put a human lens in a situation like Step with Hope, imagine a person who, literally, found a way to get to the aid center, because that in itself is such a hard thing sometimes, and requests aid. And then because of a human error on typing the name or getting the address wrong or some small thing like that, some administrative clerical error, does not receive that aid. Technology is about human enablement and can really take care of these things. So when you put that human element into it, that human lens onto this process, I think this process was super important because it reduced errors, as Dean said. It almost made it negligible to zero error. It was zero errors at that point. And that meant that the aid got to the right person at the right time. And nothing is more important at that point. So just like in the corporate world, I think these processes that nonprofits have are important because, I've understood so much since doing this with Dean and team and Step with Hope. It takes care of trafficking issues sometimes. Sometimes it's getting the right medicine to the right person, which can be detrimental. Sometimes there's no access to hospitals and things like this. So it's really important to get these IDs right. And in this case, really, really successful in getting the process automated. They were able to generate the reports when 10 times a day if they needed to, versus once a day. Compliance, governance, governmental requirements, aid requests, aid compliance, all these situations are well taken care of.
Yeah, thank you, Neeti. Next slide. So this collaboration has just really produced an amazing impact. I think when we started out with it, we started out with a theory that we could, make an impact. I think over a year in, we've been just amazed at how the collaboration has been able to solve problems right at the point of need. Today, we've through the Ukraine ESC platform, we've gotten well over 100,000 requests for aid coming through. Step with Hope has been able to directly service more than 32,000 of those requests, and all sorts of other kind of ancillary benefits have come out of that, right? Like, for instance, because Step with Hope now has much more structured data that they can leverage. They've been able to leverage that data to get additional funding. They've been able to, for instance, optimize how they're growing their service centers because they're getting a better sense of where the need is and what the need is, especially even needs that perhaps they weren't able to solve originally, but people wouldn't even get to them because they wouldn't even get through to the call center. Now, at least we've got data on the needs that they're not able to serve, and they're able to kind of go and find the funding so that they can actually service those needs. And like I said, we've been able to help connect them to other resources outside of the Step with Hope footprint. It just to put a human face on just this tragedy. So many of the requests we get through the platform are just for things like toys for children, right? Or educational supplies and so on. And so when you see those requests, you just it just really humanizes the need. And if we can go to the next slide, I just want to give a shout out to the people doing the really hard work here. Ina at the top of this slide is the executive director of Step with Hope, and she's just an amazing woman who is just forced to be reckoned with, and just runs this fantastic organization. And like I said, I don't know if she ever sleeps, but she finds time to do her day job, and then she finds time to help us help her. I also want to, just make a shout out to our CFHT team in Poland and Ukraine, who are actually, people, not bots, on the ground, helping with the operation of our digital platform and helping with all of the language interface. These are all Ukrainian speakers between us and our NGO partner on the ground. And they, a lot of them come from a company called Swivel, that is a commercial operation here in the United States, a robotics company that has had a big engineering operation and service center in Ukraine, and offered their people offered to help and be a part of this. And we really, quite literally, with, despite all, I know we're all here to talk about technology and making technology work, this wouldn't have been possible without these people who have been just the glue, the interface between Step with Hope and our technology team. And they're all refugees. Many of them are refugees from the war themselves, or they're IDPs themselves. And so they have this tremendous empathy. They're not just, at arm's length from the problem. The problem is affecting them and their family every day. And so I just want to shout out to them and just say how grateful we are for the enormous commitment that they've shown. Next slide. So, just some lessons that we've learned, and I'll let Neeti also kind of go through what she thinks the lessons are. No off-the-shelf solutions are rarely ready to meet the need of the NGOs, at least the ones that we're working with. There has to be some, there is some need to really understand even the best off-the-shelf technology, to understand how to make that technology fit the actual need itself. And we've tried to strike a balance there, right, between getting the most leverage from great off-the-shelf products, and also using products like Automation Anywhere, where the cost of customization is very low. And so that allows us to do sort of this rapid experimentation cycle that allows us to get to the right solution very, very quickly. And it's really important to be able to scale quickly, to be able to meet the need. I mean, we learned very quickly that once you turn these solutions on and they're working, it starts to scale very, 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 very fast. We really learned the importance of the strong partnership with the partner that we're working with, and I'll let Neeti talk a little bit about Gen AI and intelligent automation, which is the core of what they do every single day. But we always want to make sure that we're trying to fit the right technology to the right problems. And we did learn that messaging apps, at least in this particular environment, was the right place to reach our IDP, the people that Step with Hope is trying to serve, to meet them where they actually are. And so, we've got a highly configurable, highly customizable platform. Neeti, do you want to talk a little bit about IA and AI, Gen AI and intelligent automation?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to, echo Dean's shout outs. The folks we worked with, and that includes everybody at Automation Anywhere who was involved in it, just so inspirational. And to their point, the need and classifying that need, understanding that need, we needed their input, and just on the ground to be able to deliver everything they were delivering, as well as looking ahead to say, how can this help us? And getting that bot out, just very inspirational to work with them. So I echo Dean's words. Coming to the lessons learned, again, I would, I come back to the collaboration piece, of course. I think there are many technologies in the tech world that serve specific purposes, and when they come together, magic can happen, but they have to come together. And that is superbly important, especially in cases such as this, where time is so important, of course, but more importantly, the humanity of what we're doing is so important. I would like to talk about that first bot that we had, the Telegram for Humanity bot. We're already working on a system to introduce now, because our platform now introduced Gen AI into it. So we collaborate with Gen AI. So now, typically what we were doing before is that as Dean mentioned, when that Telegram message came in, it was then collated within Zendesk. Then we kind of went through the process, and we were able to acknowledge that aid or deliver that aid based on what was the request. So now the way we are customizing this is to say, when a Telegram request is sent by the refugee, we use Gen AI that's integrated in our platform to actually look at that message and classify it as a service request or an aid request, so information request. So where is the closest evacuation center? Is the hospital close to me, etc. And then the bot is able to go look at a database of FAQs or information that's readily available, that sometimes 24/7 updated. So, sometimes it's a moving hospital, or it's the aid center was bombed, for example, God forbid, but had to be moved, or something happened, electricity is gone, and so they've moved, etc. And so we are able to take that information, the bot is able to take that information and deliver it, again, using Gen AI in a customizable narrative, back to the aid requester. And then the service requests, like I need diapers or I need medicine, is collated by the bot and then is put into a package, into a report, and sent to the volunteer. So then the volunteer can look at it. And now, again, the bot can take that report and place the requests for those items, whether it's with the Red Cross or whether it's with their own logistical systems. Now, again, end to end, when we are able to let that requestor, the IDP, know immediately, in some cases, what their request was, because it's just information, or having the volunteer have a package delivered, a report delivered, so that they are able to place the order that much faster, or get the logistics of it done that much faster, I think will also be very, very beneficial. So again, these technologies are changing. I know Gen AI and intelligent automation, we've seen just in the last 6 months, the use cases, the solutions that are being developed are just fantastic. And if they are leveraged in the right way for these nonprofits to utilize, I think we can do so much more together.
Yeah, Neeti, and I think there's so much potential for Gen AI in this area. It's just the sky's the limit. So it's just really amazing to see what your organization is doing with the technology. I think it's going to make a tremendous impact on the space. I also think that we should acknowledge that, automation doesn't solve everything. And when these solutions work best is when there's automation and human beings and people working together, right? Doing the right thing, right? Operations, automations providing the lift. Many of the IDPs who are requesting aid are in extreme psychological situations. They're under tremendous amounts of stress. Sometimes speaking to an automaton can be frustrating in those situations, and they need to get through to a human being, or they need to feel like someone who is human is actually listening and hearing their need. And so being able to sort of also discriminate and do some sentiment analysis and route to people when you need to in the platform is also going to be a very, very critical thing. But next slide. So I just want to, we're wrapping up here. I'm just going to open up for questions. I just want to maybe put it to you, Neeti. I mean, what advice do you have for other nonprofits who are thinking about how can we leverage automation and especially the developments in Gen AI, and how can we do it most efficiently, without doing damage to or having too much risk?
I think that's a great question, a great way for us to think as well as tech companies, because as we develop these products, two things always stay in my mind. One is technology has only one purpose, and that's human enablement, nothing else. It's not put on, there's just absolutely no other job it has. And that means we can be hopefully more human if we utilize the technologies better. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of what I'd like to, at least to this audience, this one, and we've had so many use cases, but this one use case alone helped us think through how much more people on the ground could be supported for whatever they were trying to accomplish, and especially from a humanitarian perspective. So I challenge the nonprofits to actually lead the world in what can be done with utilizing these technologies versus the corporate world alone, because the need is imminent. The need is humanity, and in my opinion, the use cases that will come out of the nonprofit world can really help shape these products, of course, but will make us all a better world, of course, and better people in it. So I really am excited because just my foray in the last 2 years, and I'm a newbie in the space, my foray in the last 2 years has been very, very inspirational, and has taught me a lot of things about technology and what it can do for nonprofits.
Great. Well, let's open it up for questions. I know there's a bunch of questions in the chat, and maybe Seth, you can moderate for us, and let's just have a dialogue.
Yeah. Hi, Dean. Hi, Neeti. This is Seth. Yeah, we do have a bunch of questions coming in. A lot of nuts and bolts type of questions as well. Vera was asking was wondering, it'd be interesting to know, what is the ballpark figure to run and deliver this system, to run the Telegram for Humanity bot?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We, right now, the way CFHT operates, and we're grateful for the, the generosity of our partners that allow us to do this. In our model, we actually don't charge the NGO for the work. We're all volunteer led, so the engineers we use and so on are all sort of top experts who want to give back, want to put extra effort in as a part of their social good work. And the companies we work with, like Automation Anywhere, have been willing to donate their licenses. So what that leaves is sort of the behind the scenes operational expense of just running the platform itself. And so far, we've been able to fund that through our contributions. So we've been able to at least deliver so far what we have at no cost. Although, obviously there's a lot of cost. There's a fair amount of cost. There's work that has gone in. There's engineering time. There's the platform licenses and so on. So in the CFHT model, we hope to be able to continue to do something similar, to at least start by doing the integration and solutioning and prototyping on a donated basis. And then the ongoing operations costs we would transfer over at some point to you. But the cost of, for instance, running the steady state Ukraine ESC platform separate from the actual operations people that we have in Ukraine is actually quite low. It's in the order of hundreds of dollars a month, if not less than that. So that's our model, at least. I'll let Neeti kind of answer that question.
I think exactly to Dean's point, from a budget perspective, it really is dependent on what we're trying to achieve, what the end goal is. And in this particular case, there were 3 or 4 different technologies that had to come together. We had a lot of volunteer time from our own organization in order to help build the bots. And then help get that integrated with the other platforms and so forth as well. So yes, there is a cost that's associated, but It's, again, coming back to the humanity of it, I think hopefully we can minimize it to the extent possible, because it's for obviously a worthy cause, and it uplifts all of us.
Yeah, I would guess that if we were to look at just the labor that was put in, if it was all sort of commercial labor at sort of commercial rates, there's probably, to get to where we are, there's probably something on the order of, maybe several $100,000s of effort that actually went into actually the creation, the integration of the Zendesk platform, the creation of the bots that are running, and so on. Something probably in the $500,000 or less kind of range. If it was purely at commercial rates to get the solution that we have, at least from the labor perspective.
Okay, and Michael has a question with regard to data privacy and along those lines and cybersecurity and whatnot. He's asking about what has Zendesk done to protect and secure the data provided by NGOs and IDPs to make sure their information is secure.
Yeah, so Zendesk platform has a lot of compliance, because it's a widely used commercial grade support center platform that's used across a lot of domains, from just the integrity of their system, the security policies, the management of the data in the platform, and so on. We chose them because they have a great reputation and a lot of good structure around support, securing the resources and the data in their environment. Now, we at CFHT have also put our own policies and guardrails and so on around making sure that we're, effectively managing the data that is coming in, and our operations people are seeing, and so on. So we haven't had to do anything special to the Zendesk platform. We specifically chose it knowing that we would have a requirement. We would be getting PII into the platform. We would have to manage it effectively. And we believe that Zendesk had all of the tools and all the cybersecurity capabilities as a partner to allow us to do that.
I will add to that that's similar for Automation Anywhere as well. We are security compliance based on many standards, especially from an artificial intelligence point of view. The guardrails are pretty stringent and pretty tight, and we're very aware of it. So the security of the data, security of our processes, and how the data is transferred, everything is just top of the class at that point, because again, it's been utilized in the corporate space. It's been utilized by everybody from the government to the military to corporate, Fortune 5000, Fortune 100, right? So it really does go through the testing very, very significantly.
Thank you. Yeah, that gets to another question we had earlier from Marco, who was wondering about adding biometrics to simplify and automate persons' identification in this process. Is that something you guys considered?
We haven't, but it's an interesting interesting thought, and we'd love to perhaps learn more about how you think biometrics could be used. I mean, it's a tough situation there, right? Because I'm not sure that for a lot of the IDPs who are being served, at least by this particular partner of ours, Step with Hope, a lot of them are older people and so on. So I'm not sure, how. On one hand, I think biometrics would make some things perhaps easier for them. On the other hand, not sure how easy it is for them to have access to the biometric technology and get their biometrics registered and so on, so that they'd be able to do that. But I think it's a really good question, and I think it's something that we'd love to be able to explore and perhaps learn a little bit. We at CFHT, we don't sort of claim to be experts in what you guys do. We're experts in technology. But we're learning, I think, from the folks like you about what the real need is. And then we can sort of think about how these solutions would work best and what some of the challenges would be. So, yeah, Neeti, I don't know if you have a comment on that.
No, but definitely something to consider going forward. I'm sure biometrics has an infrastructure requirement, so probably requires maybe another tech player or something like that. But it's a valid point.
Great, thanks. And Christy was asking, Neeti, if you could share some examples of other automation processes you've supported beyond messaging apps.
Absolutely. So we work across all departments. So the way I look at processes in itself, let me give you a couple of examples to start with. For example, we've done some work, again, I'm limiting it to impact processes versus just generic processes, which of course, any business process can be automated as long as there's repetitiveness, as long as there's business logic or algorithmic logic. And again, there's volume, a certain level of volume. For a hospital in the past, we've automated the oxygen intake into each patient's room. This happened during the pandemic, where obviously frontline workers, nurses and doctors were overwhelmed. And we could basically shave off just by helping automate that particular process to run interference when it reaches a certain level, and go through a certain finding the right word, sorry, certain steps that had to go through for every time the oxygen dropped beyond a certain point. And traditionally nurses would go, or doctors would go patient to patient to check this. And we were able to shave off about 2 hours of their time on a day-to-day basis. And now you put it in a context of many hospitals or a large public healthcare system or a larger use case across many hospitals. It saves a significant amount of time and effort. Now, this is just one very teeny tiny process. We've automated things like volunteer onboarding. We've all automated invoice processing. We've automated supply chain management, logistics management. So again, if you extrapolate what we did with the aid requests, traditionally, if you had, let's say, 10,000 diapers had to be ordered and 50,000 cases of water or whatever else it was, and you had to now split that between many aid agencies and file those reports differently for each aid agency. And sometimes it's by country. So then there are country requirements and compliance and governance requirements. All of that can be automated because there's really no skill set value add for the human in the loop at that point. And so the bot can handle it. And then also bring in the human as needed. So, the fact that you can say 80% of your aid requests don't need a human in the loop, but 20% are specific, and the volunteer on the ground can then spend the extra time they have in order to get that taken care of course. I think any NGO, any nonprofit, whether it's an aid agency or otherwise, has so many processes that are very similar to the corporate world, right? Whether it's HR processes, finance processes, it's processes for your end customer. What can you do to make your, I'll give you another example. We work with insurance companies most insurance checks, let's say you're an offender bender for a car, it's just a very, very not exceptional use case. And so in those cases, the insurance check should not take 2 weeks to arrive or 2 months to arrive. It should be almost instant. And really, intelligent automation can really make that difference to that end customer to get that check in their hand in 2 minutes versus 2 weeks or 2 hours, right? And we see this across the board, whether it's account opening, whether it's if you go for food stamps, and if you go to a food stamp agency currently, they have to verify your ID in 3 different government databases, and the agent on the ground has to log into 3 different databases, has to make sure there's no errors in this, and then match it manually, and then issue the food stamp. Sometimes this can take up to 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. When a person is at your door for food stamps, that's not the time to ask them to wait 2.5 weeks to get a ID verified. And the compliance is there for a reason, and that's important. But automation can help with all of these things and really make that difference to that end customer we are serving, right? The person in need we are serving. And so these are very many examples, and please reach out to me. I'm happy to share anything that's particular in your use case or your organization. But the use cases are many. The technology exists. It really needs to be leveraged.
Yeah, and I would say, just building on what you just said there, Neeti, is that any kind of swivel chair process where you've got a human being that has to open one app and then open another app and then open another app and maybe move some data from one place to another, and it's highly repetitive. And of course, as Neeti said, you're doing it a lot, is a great candidate for intelligent automation. But I think one of the great things about platforms like Automation Anywhere's is that they also have a great mechanisms for doing what I would call semi-supervised automation, where it's not just lights out automation, fire and forget, but there's a human in the loop, right? There are ways to keep the human oversight and governance and everything necessary to make sure that the corner cases are handled, and things change within organizations and so on, and we have to keep the automation current. A big part of it is also process, right? You have to have the right set of processes in place to really get the value out of automation, to really be able to exploit it most effectively.
Yeah, that's perfect. And on that note, we have time for one more question, which just follows on the heels of that. And that is that in this era of so many opportunities around AI and automation, it can be overwhelming, especially for nonprofits. So on that note, how do we make sure that nonprofits are not left behind in this new era of AI? Do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share before we close?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think maybe that's I think in some ways, even before these breakthroughs in AI, nonprofits maybe have been left behind a little bit, right? They're not it's perhaps not the place that the cutting edge technologists go to see how they can solve problems. And I hope that that's one of the things that we at CFHT can do, because we as an organization, our volunteers, the people we're working with, they're actually top technologists working at top companies, solving great problems. And so be able to take a little bit of their mind share and apply it to your problems, right, through an organization like CFHT. And they're doing it knowing, and it's their company sponsor, their organization sponsoring them, like Automation Anywhere, but it's also the individuals who have a heart, a passion for service, right? So you're getting people who really care, as opposed to people who just want to make $1 or something off of your nonprofit. I think I don't have a great pat answer for that, but I'm hoping that that's an area where an organization like CFHT can really help move the needle.
I might add a little bit to it as well. And this comes from, just from a process or a business perspective. I think experiment a little, number one. Number two, I would encourage nonprofits to really make technologists your partner, whether it's CFHT, whether it's Automation Anywhere, whether it's something else. Because yes, that expertise has to come through, and as Dean put it, you have to solve the problem using technology, right? So that takes a little bit of a different mindset. And 3, don't take the largest pain point you have and start there,
Right.
because that's one of the things we've seen time and time again. You really want to start where it's a decent problem. It's a problem that allows you to learn with it, and then you can leverage that technology for 5 other big problems. But often we see that if you start with the biggest problem, it's just a big problem and it's harder to solve. And so then nonprofits or other organizations might get a little down by it. It's like, oh, this is not working. It's too much effort. It's too much work. Not the biggest problem. Start with something that is volume oriented or administrative oriented in our case. And intelligent automation or Gen AI with intelligent automation can definitely help move that needle. And that's what we've seen with other nonprofits we've worked with. You start small. I'll give you one example. We've started with one organization, one bot. In 2 years, there are 3,000 bots. So these are real life scenarios where they've really embraced technology, and they are the ones in the driving seat getting it done. We just make technology. So it really is about what we can deliver together, and I'd be excited to work with any and all of you.
So what I'm hearing is think big and start small, and it just exponentially goes out from there. That's fantastic. Thank you. We went a little over, but this was really excellent. Thank you so much for bringing all of this to the NetHope audience today. Remember, everyone, this webinar series needs your voice. You can help us improve this vital resource for the NetHope community by filling out our satisfaction survey. Links are in the chat, and they will also be in our follow-up email and on the webinar landing page at nethope.org. Thank you again to Neeti and Dean. There will be a follow-up email coming your way in the next few hours with links to the webinar recording, the slides, and other resources shared during today's presentation and discussion. And on behalf of our presenters and NetHope, we wish you a great rest of your day wherever you are in our wide world, and thank you.
You all.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.